All right, what a pleasure this is. An absolute honor to say hello to the one and only, one of the all-time greats from the world of professional boxing, longtime trainer, ESPN analyst as well, co-host of the Fight podcast, also the son of the great Theodore Atlas as well, and the great Theodore Atlas Foundation, which I was honored to join last year, the one and only Teddy Atlas. How great is this? It's so great to be joined by Teddy Atlas on the program. Teddy, thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, Ariel. You're more than just a very good host and, television commentator. You're a good human being. You came all the way down to New York last year to my charity foundation to help us raise money for people that are not as fortunate as many people are and as we are. People that truly need help, people that truly fall through the cracks, whether it's to put a wheelchair ramp up for an invalid child, or whether it's to pay to send a child and their family out of town to get a treatment program that their insurance does not provide. The foundation's been doing that for 24 years now, and you helped us. You helped us raise money, and I will always remember that and always be grateful for that. You're a good person.
Well, thank you. And I look forward to being a part of it for many years to come, including later on this year. And we'll talk about that later in the conversation. But Teddy, I have to say, the first time I ever interviewed you and met you was in 2017. It was the Mayweather-McGregor fight week. And correct me if I'm wrong, but when I spoke to you that day, I felt like you weren't the biggest MMA fan. Maybe you didn't quite gravitate towards it yet. You didn't have knowledge of it, respect for the fighters. I don't know, but I got that impression from you. Fast forward 3+ years, and especially in the midst of this pandemic, and especially watching your podcast that I referenced, The Fight, I feel like you're a huge UFC fan now. You're breaking down fights. Your knowledge of the sport has grown exponentially. What has happened here? Where did this love for MMA come from? Because each and every week I'm seeing you talk more and more about the sport.
Well, I've had some of the MMA fighters on my show, like Dustin Poirier and Francis Ngannou, and Masvidal, and a couple others. So I got to see them as people, as good human beings, as good people, as tough son of a guns, as gladiators, as warriors, but as human beings. And I have a lot of respect for them. I have respect for anybody who can go into combat, whether it's especially our armed service men and women, and people that can do something like this, that can go into an octagon or into a ring and face what most people will never face in a lifetime themselves. All the fears, inhibitions, doubts, things that may have been shadows of their life that may have tormented them since they were kids, things that they had to overcome, that they're still overcoming. And for a person to climb up those steps and get in that ring and face another human being, and all the things that come with that's a special person. That's a person that, has a special kind of not only courage, but mission to find out how far can I go? How great can I be? What more can I face? And not many people challenge themselves to that extent. And I gain a lot of respect understanding their world. It's the same world as mine. You're getting in a ring and you're doing combat. And you have to deal with the things that I just touched. So I got to be honest. I was negative towards their striking abilities, that it was primitive compared to boxers and elite boxers, that it was primitive. But what I didn't take into account was all of the other mixed martial arts, abilities that had to be put together while they were striking and that they had to be aware of. Oh my God. and I, for some reason, I have no excuse. I didn't really, I didn't take proper account or accounting of that. That yeah, their striking skills might not be quite up to the level of the top fighters, but they also have the responsibilities of having to worry about a damn freaking foot coming to their head, and and grappling and jujitsu and everything else, and to handle all those forms of fighting and all those responsibilities, all those dangers. Let's be honest. Let's call it the way it is. To handle all of those things within their sphere. Oh wow! I said, you know what, Teddy, wake up, wake up a little bit, and give them a little bit. I don't want to use the word pass because none of these people look for anything pass. It's insulting to use that word, but give them understand it that those other responsibilities are there. Those other chores are there to be handling. I mean, this is not a guy flying a propeller airplane where you just have in the old days just a steering wheel and one button to push. They got a lot of buttons to push. They're in a spaceship, And I just realized that hey, when I got more involved in it, I have enough intelligence in the fight world to have understood what I was now understanding, and when I now had more information to understand. And they're gentlemen. They're gentlemen. They're good people. So how can you not? I don't know. If you're a fight guy, how can you not embrace that?
And then on Monday, I see this video that just warmed my heart of you at Extreme Couture in Las Vegas, working with the great Francis Ngannou, #1 contender in the heavyweight division. Teddy Atlas working with Ngannou, a guy who I think a lot of people would say has immense power, but still developing his striking, still a little raw, maybe this piece of clay that still has a lot more work. First of all, before you tell me about the experience of working with him, because I'm fascinated by this, how did this come about?
Well, it's all pretty much because of the success of my podcast. I've been blessed, and our podcast has been very successful. And people tell me it's the biggest boxing podcast in the country. I don't know. And they tell me it might be, it's one of the biggest MMA ones. How did that happen? I don't know. But but it's people come to us to be on the show. There's conversation, there's communication. We had Dustin Poirier on, who's a great man and a great fighter and a great champion and has all the characteristics, all the traits of a champion: talent, striking, wrestling, and humanity. I always believe there's a strength in humanity. I always believe that there's a strength when you can care beyond your own realm, when you can care for more than just yourself. And it makes you stronger. And Dustin Poirier is a good example of that. There's a lot of them in your world that are good example of that. Francis Ngannou is a great example of that, what he does in his own country of the Cameroon, giving people hope that otherwise might not have hope, and building gyms for them and places for them to have a chance like he had to, escape poverty and to get to the places that we all want to get to, we all want to dream of getting to. So he communicated with the producer, Rob Moore, and that puts together my podcast, does a good job, and we got together. And, another reason why, Ariel, that I think I didn't think I'd be using this word. I crossed over. I
love it.
We went to the dark side or the bright side. Maybe it's the bright side right now because, and listen, it's not without some people being mad at me, because some of these fight fans, they go out there on the internet and they're saying, "How dare you, Teddy? You're leaving us. This is your sport. You forgot?" No, I didn't forget. I didn't forget at all, you guys. I know where I come from. I always know where I come from. But that doesn't mean I can't appreciate something else, and be able to applaud those kind of special people too, as well as my people in the boxing game. But even more so, when this terrible pandemic struck, it changed the world and it changed sports. And when the first ones to come back was UFC, and when they came back, they put good fights on. I got a secret for you. So the boxing fans won't hear me say this. I'll make sure they're not listening. They put real competitive fights on. And that's the formula Dana White has. And listen, I get it. It's what I've been asking for 45 years in boxing, a national commission, a czar. We don't have that. You kind of have that. You have one guy who says, hey, I'm going to do what's best for the sport. In my sport, you don't have that. You get a bunch of promoters that are money hungry. That's not a knock. We all want to make money. But you get a bunch of promoters who are just looking out for their piece of property, only for their own promotional company and for their fighters. They don't care beyond that, how it affects the fans, how it affects, unless it, of course, it comes to a point of, the financial point. But for the most part, they don't care how it affects the sport overall. Just their part of the industry. And so therefore, you'll see a lot of these, when boxing finally came back, what did you see? Let's be honest. You saw sparring sessions. You saw A's and B's. The A's going to win all the time. Who wants to go to that movie? I don't. I don't want to go to a movie that I know the ending. And that's what they were putting on. You go to a UFC movie, you don't know the endings. You don't know who's going to win. There's upsets. And there's the best fighting the best. And it doesn't matter what their records are. Oh, my God. In boxing, if you got a couple losses, it's like the old days when they used to say when a cop got in trouble, they sent him to an outpost in Siberia. You never see him anymore. He's walking a post in Siberia. I mean, that's the way it is with boxing, and it's been that way for years. Like, you got to protect the record, and it don't care about whether the guy develops or gets better or fights good fights or the fans get to see crappy fights. It don't matter. As long as you're building that record up, the networks love it. And that's what they're selling. But in your sport, well, Dana White is a genius. He's a genius. He shouldn't be a genius because it's not that hard to figure out. But the way it is compared to other combat sports, I guess he's a genius because he understands that it don't matter if they get losses. You know why? They're getting better. They're proving themselves that they belong at that level. They can compete at that level. And they become what they're supposed to become. They become the best fighter possible. And you know what? Sometimes in our sport, by trying to keep them undefeated, because the promoters just want to build up their own little cachet. Their little cachet of fighters. Their little stable. And so what do? They protect them at the risk of giving the fighter and the fan, but the fighter what they really need to become a better fighter. And you guys let them get what they need to become a better fighter. They can get a loss, and they become a better fighter, and then they still get right in the mix, right away, right back in there where they're fighting for titles. In boxing, it's like I said earlier, it's like it's a death sentence. Oh, my God, I got a loss. Oh, gee. No. It's what you need sometimes to reach your destiny, your potential. And you guys, Dana White understands that. Listen, he's got an advantage. He's the Capo, whatever they in those mob movies. He's a boss, right? Okay, he's the Don. He's the Don, and he can get away with it. And it's to the benefit of your sport. And that's why your sport has grown so much. And that's part of why, don't take this wrong now, but I'm always willing to take and give. I'm in it. But that's why you got my attention even more, because you were putting better fighters on. Not because you became Coca-Cola and you left Pepsi in the in the dust. Not because, you were the more favorable place to be and at the moment. No, I didn't do it for that. I just did it because you were putting better fights on. So when you were putting better fights on, I have a podcast. I report news and truth. I try to every day about the combat sport world, about boxing, about everything that has something to do with getting into a ring or a squared circle or an octagon and facing another person in a way that we usually don't see. Usually in life, you run away from difficult situations. You find a way to survive. These people are special. They find a way to conquer. They find a way to overcome. And I'm reporting on this world. I got to report the truth. And I tried to do that for 24 years with ESPN. I'm trying to do that with the podcast. And I think I've been doing it. Where the truth is right now, UFC is making better fights. So am I paying a little bit more attention there? Well, to that extent, yeah. If one sport is showing me sparring sessions and another one is showing me real fights, well, you know what? If I'm going to go with my grandson, who was here a little while ago, and I'm in Vegas visiting him, he's a beautiful boy, by the way, and I'm going to go to the zoo. I want to go to the zoo and see lions. And then if I want to see lions, and if we're going to say that's what we're seeing, and I'm giving a great, obviously appropriate respect to all fighters, they're lions. So if I'm going to go see lions fight lions, okay. But if I'm going to go, like I do with my grandson, to the zoo and see lions just get fed pieces of steak, I think I'm going to go watch the lions fight lions. And in boxing, it's been more like feeding time at the zoo. I'm sorry. A lot of people go, oh my God, he just said that? Yeah, I just said that. If you're going to give me one sport that the lions are eating prairie dogs and the other one the lions are facing lions, yeah, you know what? Call me crazy. I think I'm going over there, and we're going to watch that. And that's what's been happening, okay? That's what's been happening. And I love boxing. I'm never going to lose that love. Like I did a podcast that came out today, and I reported on the Charlo fights the other night. And I reported on the UFC fights with Adesanya and them, and on both of them. And I didn't have to be the amazing Kreskin before the show to say, I bet you UFC gets better numbers. and they are. They have replaced, and I say this with sadness in a certain way, they've replaced boxing as the top dog, as the top guy. They've replaced them. Maybe it'll change. It won't change until the formula changes that I just finished talking about. It won't. But right now, they're on top. They're like the Jeffersons. Remember the Jefferson show years ago?
Moving on up.
Moving on up.
Yes.
Moving on up.
Well, this is tremendous stuff, Teddy. Can I ask you the experience of working with Francis? What was your takeaway, and will you be doing more of that? Are you going to be cornering him against Stipe?
I don't know. Well, that's way, way too early in that conversation to even go there. But I just did it because he was on my show. He was a guest on my show. He was good enough to come on my show. And I learned about him as his charity work in the Cameroon, caring about other people. He's a gentleman. And, I just said, if I could do something nice to help somebody, why not? I'm going to be in Vegas. My guy from the podcast talked to his people, good people. No surprise. If he's a good person, he's probably going to be around good people. And they talked and said, Teddy's going to be in Vegas. Could we get together? Maybe do something in the gym? Yeah. Not hard. Yeah. And we did. And listen, he's got great people around him. Obviously he's gotten to where he's gotten to. But again, the striking part The boxing world is a little more advanced for the most part. Again, because you guys have a lot more on your plate than we do when it comes to that. You got a lot of freaking stuff coming at you guys. And again, uh, nothing but respect. And I spent a few hours with him in the gym. I don't know what the future will bring. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But I didn't do it for that. As I told him, I'm in retirement. Until I'm not. And the only thing that brings me out periodically, I'm like Haley's Comet. I show up every few years. And the only thing that does it is, it's probably three things. It's a challenge. It's a belief that I can help the person. And it's the knowledge that I'll be around good people, a good person that I feel good about being around. Otherwise, I ain't doing it. And so I spent a few hours with Francis and with his man, his agent, and his trainer, good people. And this is what I saw, Ariel. I don't have to tell you this part. I saw a big human being. There ain't no replacing genetics, Ariel.
Yes.
I've been in this business my whole life. You can't. That Teddy Atlas got nothing to do with that. I don't play with test tubes. So genetics are from God and from our parents, from nature. But I saw obvious power, size, but intelligence. Real cerebral intelligence, just real, intelligence, but also innate, instinctual intelligence. He's got good instincts. And I saw good legs, where for a big son of a gun, he moves his legs. I saw agility. You don't always see agility with a giant. I saw agility, athleticism. I saw a guy who can be coached, a guy who understands what you're telling him and why you're telling him, and a guy who wants to learn, a guy who takes his ego and puts it where it should be put. And not everyone can do that. I just had not an opportunity, but I'm not going to say the name because I wouldn't do that because maybe it bothers him, maybe it, I don't know, embarrass him, or it's just not right. It's personal. But there was a fighter, pretty good heavyweight, pretty darn good fighter in the mix, guy in the mix. And because if I say more than that, then you figure it out. Because there's people already now. Who yeah, but a guy in the mix. And they had asked me if I would possibly train him for his next fight. A big fight, a very important fight. And I told them before we even go further, watch my podcast I just did like today. It talked about him a little bit. It talked about some other people too. And I did what I do. I was constructively critical, if that makes sense. That's all. And no more phone call back. But it was good. It was a blessing.
Yeah.
Because if he didn't want to hear those things, guess what? He was probably going to hear more of them in camp.
Right.
Than he heard on the podcast. So and listen, God bless the guy. He's a good guy, and he's a good fighter, and nothing but luck for him. But it's good that we found out then later that he wasn't going to like to hear things that were not positive in his mind. But they are positive because I'm trying to tell you something before it becomes bad. I'm trying to tell you something like a parent with a kid. That's the problem with training. That's why I don't want to do it. And I rarely do it. Or I do. I only want to do it in those special cases because I've had kids already, and now I have grandchildren. It's tough being responsible and telling them things they don't want to hear. It's not. You have children. You understand. It's not It's not easy. You know, sometimes when you tell them, no, you know, you can't have ice cream every day. You know, no, you can't, and you got to learn this, and you got to do this. And I know it's not as much fun as doing some of the other things. So he showed me that he wants to hear what he has to hear, and that's a guy you can work with. He also he's got. I said it earlier. He's got good instincts. If you notice, he's a natural counterpuncher. A lot of people are going to be blown away. What are you kidding me? This guy is Coleman, the Barbarian. You know, yeah, he is to a certain extent. Yeah, he's got great power. Punches are not made; they're born. Yes, but Eddie, yes, he does have to be chiseled down. He does have to be. We all do. He does have to be. You know, there's certain things that the rough edges have to be smoothed a little bit. But his instincts, I was watching him, a little film when I knew I was going to work with him because I want to be prepared. And I said, oh my goodness. I saw the spots where he reached in and he was getting wide with his punches. I saw that. But then I saw other spots in other fights that I hadn't seen, Ariel, where he laid back and he waited for the guy to take the initiative to make a mistake, and then bop, bop, he countered the guy. I said, this guy's got instincts to counter this big monster. And why? Because he knew instinctually most guys in the UFC are smaller, so they're going to be forced to come to him. So why go to them where you may expose yourself? Let them come to you and then catch them. Then go for. Wow. I said, smart guy. Now, how do you build on that? Because there's going to be times when the counters are not available because the other guy is smart too. That happens. I hate when that happens. And so the other guy, won't just walk in. So then you have to find ways to create offense on the front end, not on the back end. On the front end, without losing defense, without losing an advantage, without giving yourself up. And so we talked about that stuff. Sometimes you have to be an aggressive counterpuncher. What the hell is that, Teddy? An aggressive counterpuncher? I watched Floyd Mayweather. I didn't see an aggressive counterpuncher. Well, maybe you weren't watching all the time. Maybe you missed a couple of things. But sometimes you can do something aggressive to get a guy to do what you want him to do, so then you can counter. Just set it up. And so we went over and bang, bang. He got it. He understood it. And I got to tell you one thing. It wasn't. I don't put that stuff up there. I don't. My guy puts stuff up on it. I know nothing. I'm lucky I'm on here with you.
Yeah.
I'm lucky I'm on here with you. I'm lucky my wife said, okay, you primitive, internet guy or whatever this is. Here, set it up. Here you go. I'm going to go take our grandson. I'm going to go give him a nap. Here, you talk to Ariel. Thank God she was able to do that. But, there is, like I said, he's smart enough to understand the things to move forward, to advance, with more than just his brute strength. And I watched the UFC cards the other night, and it was very interesting for me, because I like this. And that's one of the things why I gave extra respect to you guys. I knew it. I said, anyone who's at the top, I don't care how tough they are. I don't care. If they're separating themselves from everyone else, it's because they're smarter than the others. They're just as tough, but they're doing something that's separating themselves in a cerebral way, in an intelligent way. And they all do. All you guys do that. Everyone, but some of the fans don't notice it. They see the elbow, they see the knee, and they think that's all it is. No. And that's what I like about the UFC. That's what I appreciate. That's why I talk about it.
I love it.
To show that, to give them credit for that there's a science in there with all the brute stuff. And I'm watching it the other night. It was really interesting. And here you got David and Goliath, right? You got Costa and Adesanya. And you got Costa. To me, it was George Foreman and Ali and Zaire. I'm telling you, Ariel, it was. It really, I watched it. I said, George Foreman and Ali, wow, it's happening again. He's going to break them down. He's going to break them down. And he didn't just break them down with the leg kicks. Yeah, smart. You got a bigger guy. See, in my business, if you have a bigger, stronger guy, what do? You give them angles. You give them more balance so they can't use their strength. They can't be the bigger guy. Makes sense. That's what we. But in your sport, what do? You take their legs away. You hit them in the legs so they can't be a bigger guy. They can't set to be strong up top. If you got no bottom, your top means nothing, no matter how big it is. So that's what Adesanya did. He took the bottom away, so there was no top, no more big guy. Big guy's gone now. He doesn't have the legs to be a big guy. So Adesanya takes his legs away. But what else does he do? He gets into his head. That's how he really beat him. He gets into his head like Ali got into Foreman's head. He stands up. He understands the mentality, something that's been a strength for Costa and Foreman, but now he turns it into a weakness where he stands up to the bully, and the bully gets bullied. Me and Customano, my mentor, used to have a saying in boxing that when you go into a fight trying to intimidate somebody as part of your asset, as part of your advantage, as part of your strength to win that fight, when you do that, which Costa did, which Foreman did, there's no denying it, when you do that, when the intimidator does not intimidate the intimidated, now the intimidator becomes the intimidated. And that's what happened. You see it right in front of you. The intimidator became the intimidated. Costa became the intimidated. Adesanya was the bigger guy. He was the monster. He was the boss. He was in control. And my God, it was so. And that's what Ali did to Foreman. And Foreman has grew after that. 10 years exercising the ghost. You know, he came back and what a special man Foreman is. What a special man to come back. He came back smarter. He used that experience. He was tougher than the younger Foreman. He would have beat the crap out of the younger Foreman. Would have spanked him because of what he learned from Ali. And you know what it was? That you're in control until you give up that control. See, in those kind of situations, it happened to Costa too. You start to believe that the other guy controls. It's his choice. What happens? No, it's not. It's your choice. It's your choice until you give it to him. But you start to believe that you have no control over it, that he has control. That's not your choice. It's not true. It's a lie. But you have to learn the difference between the truth and the lie. And you have to go through it. And Adesanya taught Costa the truth, but the difference between the lie and the truth. That he really made Costa feel like, I no longer have control over what I do tonight. He took it from me. It's his choice. No, it's not. And people should learn that in life too. No, it's not. When you're under pressure, when that wave of pressure comes, and it comes, and it can engulf you, it can smother you like a tidal wave. When it comes, those tough things, it doesn't have to be in a ring. It could be as a parent. It could be as a person working. Whatever it is, when it comes, remember, it's still your choice. No matter how difficult, no matter how dark it gets, no matter how hard it is to breathe, it's still your choice how you behave. Still your choice. But he made him forget that.
This is incredible stuff. Unfortunately, I'm out of time, Teddy, and I had so much more to ask you.
I'm sorry.
Can I ask you a one-word answer? It'll be a placeholder for the next time we talk because we have to talk again soon. One-word answer, okay? Conor McGregor, Manny Pacquiao in a boxing match. Does Conor stand a chance to beat Manny Pacquiao? Yes or no?
Pacquiao's 43 years old. Yes, maybe. Yeah, you never know when a guy's gonna get real old. You never know. The only thing that's going against him is, unlike Mayweather, who's more of a counterpuncher, until he realized he had to come forward, Pacquiao will come forward right from the beginning. That's a little bit of a difference. But, yeah, and when you're as good a promoter as McGregor is, give him a chance anyway.
Wow. Well, we have to talk more about that one in the coming weeks. What a huge honor this was. I could listen to you talk for hours, but unfortunately have to get to another interview. So I just want to thank you very much for doing this. It's an absolute pleasure and honor. Keep up all the great work with the podcast, The Fight, and with your foundation, the Dr. Theodore Atlas Foundation, and everything that you do for the fight game. We appreciate it very much. Thank you, Teddy.
Appreciate you.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.